A struggling waitress and her daughter encounter a strange man who seeks shelter for one night. As the mother gets to know more about this mysterious stranger, the more she reflects on her life decisions. A man in glasses drowns a girl in the ocean. He later drags the lifeless body to the beach, steals a keyring from her jacket, and slits her hairline with a knife. The man then stashes his victim's clothes in the trunk of a car, together with a stack of boxes with names on them. He gets in the car and notices a gash on his cheek, which he probes with his finger. Opening a toolbox, the man stitches his wound using a fish hook and fishing line. He then plays classical music on the car radio before driving away into the night. In PortFourchon, Louisiana, a mother struggles to get her daughter Jack into the bathtub. She resorts to bathing the child in a plastic basin outside, which the girl doesn't seem to mind. Later, a TV news report about a missing girl abducted from home piques Jack's interest, but the mother turns the tube off as they leave. They drive to a house at the docks, hurriedly meeting a woman named Denise, who will babysit Jack. When Denise tries to compliment Jack's braids, the girl slaps her hand away, but her mother reprimands her. As the girl goes off to play with Denise's son Beau, Denise turns to the mother Toni in a serious tone. After a talk with her husband Derek, Denise airs their concerns regarding Jack's erratic behavior. Toni doesn't take nicely to this, especially when Denise suggests she take Jack somewhere else. Toni argues that she can't afford a proper daycare facility for Jack, but Denise reiterates that their arrangement was temporary. Denise apologizes and gives Toni until Friday, and the latter relents and walks off. Later, Toni arrives at her waiting job in a rundown diner and asks her boss for a favor to earn money quick. The boss tells her she has to do a man named Lee, who's nodding off at a nearby table, to Toni's dismay. Meanwhile, the man in glasses stops by a gas station to refuel. He asks the clerk if there are any places to stay nearby, but apparently, none are available. In an unnerving tone, the man asks where the clerk sleeps, but the clerk answers evasively, instead directing the man to a diner. Back at the diner, a news report of a missing 15-year-old, Christina Harris, plays on TV as Toni and her boss Janine watch. The report mentions a suspect in the case dubbed the Blind Butcher, referring to the gruesome way his victims are left, according to Janine. They hear a snapping sound and turn to see a rat getting caught in the trap. Janine dumps the trapped rat into a bucket of water, which disturbs Toni. She remembers a past event where a man who appears to be Jack's father celebrated the girl's birthday with them. As Jack blew out the candles on her cake, Toni left to get a knife while the man handed a present to the girl. Jack unwrapped a toy gun, leaving the man named Donnie apologetic as he didn't know Jack was a girl. Donnie bluntly asked if Toni needed money, but she denied it, saying the invitation was just for Jack, who was asking about her father. Later, while watching TV, Toni felt Donnie's hand up her thigh, so she told Jack to go to bed. The child refused to go to bed unless she took a bath first, which left Toni with no choice but to comply. Donnie watched over Jack in the bathtub while Toni fixed up the kitchen. Upon hearing Jack scream, Toni ran to the bathroom to find Donnie holding the girl's head. Donnie said it was because Jack was moving around so much as Toni calmed her daughter down. When Jack repeatedly sprayed Donnie with the toy gun, he lost patience and hit the girl. Toni tried to grab Donnie, but he pushed her into a wall and knocked her unconscious. After Donnie hastily left, Toni woke up to find Jack floating face down in the bathtub. She scooped out the child, performed CPR, and eventually revived her. Toni snaps out of her memories, staring at the drowned rat in the bucket. A car drives by the back of the diner, the driver peering at Toni throwing out the trash. In the kitchen, Toni unsuccessfully requests a babysitter from one of her co-workers as Janine tells her she has a customer. Toni takes an order of a hamburger from the man in glasses, who places $100 on the table. The man tells her he just wants to talk, but Toni, thinking he's another special customer, scoffs. However, she takes another look at the money, takes it, and entertains the man. He introduces himself as Alex, attempting to pry details about Toni's life. She refuses questions, quickly gaining the impression that Alex is from out of town. Alex is impressed by Toni's wit and no-nonsense attitude, and he eventually asks where she lives. As Toni deems she's found out what the man really wants from her, Jack's scream rings out from the kitchen. Toni rushes to find her daughter's face covered in blood, then chases down and confronts Denise out the back door. Fed up with Jack's behavior, Denise recounts how the girl bit the mailman and threatened her son with scissors the other day. Toni tries to argue, but Denise just reiterates that something is wrong with Jack, leaving Toni screaming in frustration. Later, Toni spends time with Jack at home even as power is cut from their house. While persuading her daughter to eat, Toni remembers another past event. A younger Toni came to her room to find two girls there. One of the girls, named Meredith, told her she failed to acquire misoprostol. Meredith reassured a desperate Toni that they could still do it without the pills, with the help of the other girl, her cousin Sunny. Sunny was confident that her method worked, saying Toni's problem would go down the toilet in 3 days. With nobody else to turn to, Toni Toni agreed, and they prepared the materials in her room. Toni removed her pants and undergarment, then laid down with a blanket over her legs. Sunny brought out a sharp-looking tool and warned Toni not to move, even if it was painful. Sunny started using the tool between Toni's legs as the latter whimpered in pain. The process was stopped, however, when Toni changed her mind. Toni returns from her memories to the kitchen with Jack, switching out the child's food for a sandwich. That night, just as the diner closes, Alex comes up to Janine, asking where Toni lives. At home, Toni finishes tucking Jack to bed and is cleaning up when she hears someone lurking outside the house. She hears a knock on the door and carefully opens it to see Alex offering her $1,000 for a place to stay the night. He reassures the wary Toni that he won't harm her as he just needs to get off the road. Afterward, as Alex parks his car in the garage, Toni asks what's in the trunk, but he doesn't answer. Inside, Alex hands her the money even as he refuses to tell Toni who he's running from. Jack appears at the stairs and Toni scoops her up, telling Alex she's scared of men. The girl asks about Alex's scar, and he politely explains that he got into a fight and had to sew it up. Once Jack sleeps and Toni goes to her room, she hears Alex in the shower and remembers how she felt when Donnie caressed her thigh. She joins Alex in the shower, touching his body first and soon kissing him. The two end up in bed, and he asks her about any ambition she has in life. Toni replies that having Jack pretty much killed any other opportunity, especially with her daughter's episodes. She thinks Jack somehow knows nobody wants her, so she rages at everyone for being born. Toni asks what's in Alex's car once more, but he refuses to tell. Later that night, Toni grabs Alex's car key and unlocks the trunk of his car. She finds the stack of boxes with names on them just as Alex appears behind her. Alex tells her to pick one box to open if she's so curious about what's in them. A frightened Toni picks out a box with the name Allie and opens it on Alex's prompting. She removes the lid, gags at the contents, and backs away, pleading in terror as Alex brandishes a knife. However, Alex instead cuts his face at the hairline, then pulls the skin down to the neck to reveal the gruesome flesh underneath. The next day, Jack wakes Toni, who fell asleep on the couch, alerting her to a strange woman standing by the doorway. When Toni asks who the stranger is, the woman just beckons her to the kitchen for coffee. Toni asks for the woman's identity once more, telling her that Alex appears to be the blind butcher from the news. The strange woman tells Toni that Alex is a sales clerk from Indiana, but Toni is tired of the cryptic talk. The woman reveals she is Alex, just as Toni confirms it by seeing the man's eyes in hers. Afterward, Alex tells Toni about the skin suit she uses called Alternatives, which stimulates not just appearance but experience as well. Alex reassures Toni that she doesn't want to take her skin but merely to answer her questions. At Toni's inquiry, Alex reveals she's changed appearances 18 times and that she's running from a man called Mr. Grey. According to Alex, Mr. Grey is a wicked being with a human appearance and an insatiable appetite for human skin. Mr. Grey apparently recruited her to collect enough skins to last a lifetime, but Mr. Grey never seemed to be done. Alex separated ways with Mr. Grey when the latter killed the 15-year-old girl on the news. Mr. Grey, wearing the girl's appearance, turns out to be the person Alex drowned days ago. However, she's not sure if she really eliminated Mr. Grey, seeing how difficult it was to battle someone that inhuman. Alex speculates that Mr. Grey will want the skins back, but she refuses to return them, even at Toni's suggestion. She thinks back to her dead-end life in the past, but she's found renewed vigor through changing skins. She then credits Toni for reframing her outlook in life, choosing to live with the fact that she killed people to achieve that state. After Alex leaves, Toni looks at Jack and the money, mulling Alex's words about chasing the life she wants. She drives away with Jack, telling her daughter they'll be moving somewhere new, even changing names if she wishes. At a fast food joint, Jack tells the clerk her name is Jill, while Toni now goes by Isabel. Later, while Jack plays around the restaurant, a woman asks for directions from Toni. Chatting with the woman, Toni makes up fake stories about her life with her daughter until she hears Jack screaming again. When they return to the car, Toni sits in silence as Jack continues to scream in the back seat. As Toni remembers all the past instances of her life resenting her daughter, a quiet rage bubbles inside her until Jack eventually falls asleep. Toni then sees a fancy black Mercedes parked nearby with a blonde woman stepping out a moment later. She carries Jack out of her car, puts the child into the Mercedes rear seat after opening the door through the window, and goes back to her vehicle. The woman returns after a few minutes, and with tears streaming down her face, Toni looks at the black car once more before leaving. As Toni drives away in the opposite direction, she starts to smile like she had never before.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.